Two-stage Boolean approach. You use this. So here's your targets that you want in Boolean and Sales Navigator. And here's the first round of excludes. Titles that happen to show up when you're looking for the stuff above. You add all of these people to a lead list. Then you do a search on the lead list and you do the stage 2. You apply these negative filters against the lead list. Okay, the lead list has already had a whole bunch of Boolean attached to it, but it times out. If you add any more Boolean than this, it times out 7 seconds. So you add to a lead list and then you use this to scrub it again. And I've taken all of the possible titles you want to exclude and went A through Z. I keep adding to this list things that happen to show up. This is part of the first one before you do the lead list. This is part of the second one after you do the lead list. I've got my searches down to 6.5 seconds.
All right. So what I'm going to do here, it's going to be a little tiny bit different. I'm going to give you a little preview of what came back from the dead. And then what we're going to do is I actually would like to workshop it here together a little bit. So what I'm going to do before we actually get started, I'm going to put my profile link in the chat because I'm wanting to test what it looks like for me as a recipient and for you as a sender if you have to what you select. So drop that. I just put in the chat. If you are 3rd degree connection of me, just say it in the chat. And then if you're comfortable sharing your screen, I'd like to walk through doing an invite with this new feature. So fingers crossed that y'all aren't my besties yet. So I might pull that up here. While you're doing that, I'm going to share my screen and give you kind of a teaser. That's me, right? For when you're going through. So let's do this. This is what we're looking at. Judy Hayes has brought this up, I think maybe 100 times in the past. Do you remember when LinkedIn used to have this? Remember?
Yes, I remember. Absolutely.
So I don't really want to talk too much about the past because past is over, unless we have something to glean from here this morning. But this is what you will see sometimes when you send an invite to connect. So this is Nikki Stumpf. And let me just pop over here and kind of show you my journey to getting here. So what I did was I went to my invites and I was like, I don't see that information anywhere on any of my current pending invites. I was like, well, maybe it's like one of those things where they roll it out person to person. I'm not sure. And so then I went and I did a search, and then I looked at 2nd and 3rd degree connections. I did 3rd degree all the way back to page 100. Found a couple. When you have a larger network, it's hard to find a 3rd degree contact actually. So I found a couple 3rd degrees. Jumped over here. This is Nikki. If she's a real person, she lives like 5 minutes north of me. So if we're going to do a test where I'm going to send an invite, it's going to be like a worthwhile effort. So this is what you will see. How do you know Nikki Stumpf? And Nikki, if you watch this later, sorry if I butchered your last name. How do you know Nikki? This will be shared with Nikki in order to provide more context. Again, jumping over here, I don't know where that context is supposed to be. So that's part of what I want to workshop today. This will be shared with Nikki. You can select work, colleagues, classmates, conference, other, or we don't know each other. Okay, so before we workshop this and then later talk about, what should you choose? Should you tell the truth? Should you fudge? How's it going to maybe impact acceptance rates? What are you gonna do? So before we do that, in the chat, is there anybody that is 3rd degree contact for me? Anybody?
Isaac, I've had this happen with 2s and 3s. I've got screenshots of this popping up with 2s, so it's not exclusive to 3s.
Okay, let's see. Anybody? Jim's a 2nd degree to me. Hey, Jim, pull up the send an invite and then tell me if that pops up. Barbara, you too. I only had to come up with the 3rd, but who knows? And if you do, just let me know. All right. While
Isaac, are you connected to Marie? That she just dropped in the message. She's from France, so maybe you're not.
Marie.
Maybe she was a third degree too.
Maybe Marie, if you want to put your profile link in there, I can check real quick. Or if and again, if you want to pull up my profile and just see if you're a third degree, that's probably the best way to workshop it. So that I as the recipient want to see what it looks like. So let's do this. Let's do kind of from scratch. So let's say that I want to connect with Nikki because she is in my town, the greater Kansas City metro area. She works in recruiting, and hey, we do a lot with recruiters. So I'm going to go like this, more. I'll zoom in here, more. Instead of follow, we'll do connect. And I'm actually just going to do, let's talk through this. Panelists, feel free to chime in here. My kind of default mode is be honest. So I would probably select we don't know each other. I would love to kind of keep it short here because I want to make time. What are your thoughts on, like, do you think that saying we don't know each other is going to, though it's true, would that bring down your acceptance rates? Should you say other? Obviously, if your work colleagues, classmates, or conference, that's kind of easy. But if you don't know each other, what do you think? Should you choose we don't know each other or other? Any thoughts there?
I would
If you're
choose
honest,
other.
you say we don't know each other. I'm wondering what that triggers though. Does
You-
anyone hear a
totally.
third that you're doing this that will see what they get? Because
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, it might be, it might on the person's receiving end. I don't know. It would be interesting to see what they get.
Yeah, I believe, Mike, have you seen what it looks like as a recipient?
I have not. I have tried every which way to try to see
Okay.
it. As far as I know, it doesn't show, quite frankly. As far as
It
I
pro-
know, they say it shows and it doesn't, as far as I know.
Maybe it's one of those things where they'll kind of release it half baked and stuff.
I got a
You know-
connection request
and-
one time recently that said that the guy said that he knew me from like a work related event. So that this might have been like he selected conference because I had never seen that before.
It wasn't
says
just a normal, it
conference, not
wasn't normal
work-related
text.
event. It doesn't say work-related events. It just says conference. So I would expect it to say conference.
Paul,
Not
hey,
to
Paul,
flip
did
the-
Paul, was it like the normal text or was it one of those things where you can kind of see right here where it's got the little summary in below?
It was just on my network. I don't remember exactly where it came up. I just remember seeing it and thinking that it was weird because I had never seen it before. It said so and so says that he met you at a work related event.
Oh, interesting. That is
If you-
interesting.
I'd love to see that.
And-
If you say
Oh,
other, is there a
guys.
follow on? So
And-
Isaac, if you accept other, or if you click other, are they gonna ask for more information? That to me
Well, here-
would be the distinction between somebody you
Well,
don't know and other, and are they gonna ask you, well, what is the other? Like fill in the blank.
Well, we'll do both. I believe you are able to add a note, an invite note either way. So I think where I would land on, if you don't know the person and it's kind of like a cold, starting the business relationship from scratch, I would honestly probably just go on the side of other.
I would too,
don't know.
because you know them from LinkedIn. By the way, FYI, I sent you a LinkedIn request, Isaac. And what you're pointing at right here, where it popped up and said, how do you know Nikki? I didn't get that for you.
Okay, probably because maybe we were too closely associated with our common networks.
Isaac, I think it's randomized. I don't think you're going to be able to say it happens with 2s and 3s. I did a whole bunch of inviting LinkedIn Lions to try to get a guy up from 50 connections. We're trying to get him to 500 quickly. And I was going down the Lions list and this one did it and this one didn't, this one did, this one didn't. They were 2s and 3s. It was entirely randomized.
Huh.
And
Oh,
I
that's
got
fascinating.
Like 50 of them yesterday.
That's fascinating. All right, I guess more to learn there. Any other final thoughts from panelists who you tend to track your acceptance rates on whether you would lean towards, if you don't know the person, using other, or we don't know each other? If any final thoughts are before moving on to the next step.
Well, I'll just throw it in there. I have a connection strategy. So if I don't know them, I will look at their profile, and if they are active, not just a profile with no activity, but if they're putting out interesting content or engaged, and it's something that maybe aligns with what I'm interested in, then I would probably accept. But if they're just a static profile and there's nothing there, nah. So I would say have a strategy for connecting.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in from Judy's. I'll just add on to that I would then go into the comments, see if it's something that resonates from their profile, they're active, I go into their comments. I add on to an existing thread that they have that they're sort of building out, just to have a slight warm touch point before I reach out.
And then, but Judy and Vivica, though, would you select then other because you did a little bit of other? You
Yes,
basically
I
you're
would.
saying you become a little bit more familiar with them from
Yep.
their social presence, and so you're saying, well, we don't know each other is kind of true technically, but I've creeped on your profile a little bit, so now you can choose other. Is that?
I would
kinda what you're
choose
saying?
other.
I would
Yeah.
choose other. To me, other is like content, or I liked what they posted or something.
So,
Yeah.
but we don't know. So this prompting seems to be random because I just did a bunch of connect requests and some of them, most were second and a couple were third, and I haven't seen this.
Yeah,
So,
I had to, Scott, for me to be able to bring this up, I actually had to go to page 100. I didn't do like every 5 pages all the way through, but I just went, I went through a few pages, it didn't pop up. So I just was like, screw it, go to page 100. So if you have a larger network, it might be less common. I don't know. Totally. Well, let's move forward. I think the general consensus here is we don't know each other is a little bit of a semi showstopper. I don't know. Me as the recipient, even if the invite message was nice, or I was familiar with the company and it said we don't know each other, I'm going to be thinking, oh, it's like going to cause a little bit of friction for me as the recipient, and I'm probably a little too loose, more loose than I should be with accepting invites. But I don't know. I think I would err on the side of choosing other. That's where I am right now. Again, haven't really done this a zillion times because it's back from the grave, but I'd probably choose other. So let's just for kicks and giggles, let's see if I can do one then the other. So we don't know each other. Connect on LinkedIn. It's best to only connect with people you know to ensure high quality community. If you don't know them, follow to see their posts or send a message instead. So now I'm kind of reprompted to connect, message, or follow. So the message I'm assuming is going to be in mail. Let me just double check that.
in other words, please pay us money to contact them.
Yeah, usually though, when you click message, I have SalesNav, so it redirects to send all email through SalesNav. So let's see, let's try that again. Connect. We don't know each other. Connect. Connect. I don't know. So I'm kind of thinking, connect. We don't know each other. Connect. Message. Seems to be erroring out. I'm assuming because it's a kind of new workflow, it's just a bug. You'll probably be prompted to send an in-mail. And then if you pay for SalesNav, that'll redirect you to their profile in SalesNav. Or if you're on like a premium, then it'll probably do it right down here in the bottom right-hand corner. So let's try the other one and see what happens. So more, connect, other, connect. And then I'm not reminded by LinkedIn about the, you should connect to people you know. And then this is your standard add a note, voila. And I'm guessing choosing all the other ones will be the same. Connect, add a note. There you go. So I do want to show you this right here. This is the documentation. This is where I was like, oh, it's official. Because I've heard a couple people on here. I forget who it was. Sorry that I don't give you credit. I forgot. But that this was coming back. And so I was looking it up, and this is the official documentation on personalizing invites to Connect. So you will be asked, how do you know member name when you send a connection request? And if you select the option, we don't know each other, you'll be prompted to send them a message first to establish a relationship. This could even mean sending them an in-mail message based on their message settings, i.e. open profile. Invites sent from people you may know, feature, okay, that doesn't matter. So it's really just this. So I was like, oh, it's in the official documentation about the how do you know. It's probably here to stay for a while. So it's good to kind of work through the best use case here. I think that the takeaway up till now is it's probably going to be best to actually, let me do a follow real quick. You are following Nikki, not now. Let's see if that changes at all. The connect, we don't know, connect, Yeah, same follows gun here. So it seems like the best practice would be, if you feel comfortable with it, choosing other instead of we don't know each other. Just one less friction point if you're trying to start a conversation. So I think that's probably where I'm at, probably where the group's at. Do whatever you want. And then if you could, it's the same workflow really. You could either send an email or send an invite note. It's really just what is the recipient shown based on what you select, right? Really, that's the thing that's different. And it seems like right now, no one can find where that information lives as the recipient. And so let's do this one last thing here. If everyone could go to My Network, so go to the My Network tab and then go to, you should be looking at your invites and then click Show More. I would love to know if anyone, while scrolling through, is seeing where that information would live, because I have not seen it anywhere. Mike, you said you've not seen it anywhere.
Nope.
We've got a bigger crowd here right now. I would love to know if anyone sees that information anywhere yet.
Isaac, I think I see something on the first page for my connection request. I see a note. Is that what you were referencing?
So there's like, this would be a note right here, like Jim just
Yeah.
sent me, would be the note. The option selected here, right here, is, I'm pretty sure it's different. I don't think that it auto fills text because you still send the note. I'm assuming it's going to be like a little standalone area, kind of like this. I'm just kind of making an assumption here. Does anybody see that at all?
Isaac, if it was really happening, somebody here would have seen it, especially with all of us, many of us here being service providers and looking in other accounts and stuff. And maybe it's just a threat right now and they'll add it later. They're still writing the software to do that, but it's really not implemented. It just seems really strange to me that not one instance of any of us here or any of our clients have seen that on the other side. I mean, that's almost statistically impossible.
I've seen
Yeah,
it.
I think-
I saw it on one of my connection requests.
Did you accept it already, Paul?
I accepted. Yeah, I just looked at my
blessed.
network to see if I could find it, and I already accepted it, so it's gone.
That's
I'm
cool.
pretty sure it was just right below like the title, because it was in the this list here, and just underneath his connection request, it just said so and so said that he met you at a work related event. And when I was looking at the options, one of the options was work colleague, so that's probably the one he picked.
Interesting. So
Okay,
you're saying that it was
that's different than event. You know, we thought it was event, 10 minutes ago, and now it
Yeah,
looks-
well, I was looking at the list. I didn't see the work colleague. So I mean, I don't know, just speculation.
so Paul, since you're all we've got, one more question for you. So would we be looking for it like this little, if you can see this gray box here, are we
Yeah,
looking
it was
for kind
somewhere.
of,
It was somewhere in there.
it was in there?
It was. I mean, it was in this. I don't know if it was like a separate little box like that, or if it was. I think it was, because it kind of stood out. Like I noticed it on the invite, and I just thought it was weird because I'd never seen that before.
Yeah. Chris also said that his invites moved to the notification tab. I did see that as well. Chris, I don't think they're all going to live in notifications because it would get so jumbled up, but I did see that as well. And I did see,
Oh yeah, no, that's moved, I think, for everybody. It's in the all, but then there's an invitations button, but you have to go to notifications, invitations. It's not under My Network anymore.
yeah. So maybe you would even be living there first. So just so we can maybe get some eyes on it. If everyone wants to go to the My Network and just kind of scroll through pending invites. And if you see anything, let us know. And if you don't, pop over to the little bell here for notifications and kind of just scroll through. And if anybody sees that information anywhere, I'd love to get an early look at it. And while you're doing that, I'm actually going to send Nikki an invite just because why not? Now I'm going to choose other because we've been talking about Nikki for ages. Add a note.
So Rosario's just sent me an invite. So Rosario, did you it prompt you for that prompt as to whether you know me or how we're connected or anything?
All right, nobody's seen anything? All right, cool. Well, let's do this then. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here in just a moment and just kind of dig in a little bit deeper into just some of the use cases, best practices, thoughts on usage and that kind of thing. Before I do that, does anybody have any additional questions that you want to ask while I'm here on my screen? Last chance. Shireen, was your hands raised? Did you want to do that? Was it a question before I stop sharing, or is it for later?
Well, it's a question kind of like in the entire context of this conversation. So what is the point? If LinkedIn is really trying to help people really make connections, why would they bring this back? Right? Like, why, if you're reaching out, you're following people, you're trying to, build a network, you're trying to get leads, all of that stuff. Why do you think they're trying to bring this back? Because I just think like, okay, why do that again?
Three-letter
Why?
word, Shireen,
Well,
three-letter word, bot.
Yes,
Bot.
I agree
Oh,
with Judy. I agree with Judy.
Okay.
I think it's done to mess with the bots. I'll let you know that our systems have been updated and they push the "we don't know you" button and push the extra screen. So our systems have already been updated. So some of the bots will just take longer.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
It's called a bot barrier.
well, my opinion is that that's a small bit of the picture. I think that, well, yeah, that's a benefit. I'm trying to find the other column. Let's see what you call in here. Connect. I don't think, it's not going to be hard for somebody who uses automation software to have them click a button. I don't think that's really that big of a deal. I think that what LinkedIn's more wanting to do, Shireen, is help provide context for the pre-existing relationship so that you can continue having the conversation on LinkedIn. I think that's more what they're going for. So there are people that they might send me an invite and I don't know who they are, or maybe they were on their phone and they didn't send the note, whatever. I think it just provides a little bit of context. And then, so I think it's more than just anti-bot. I think it's pro that relationship.
Yeah, but Isaac, the problem with this is that LinkedIn's core value proposition of all LinkedIn relationships being trusted relationships among people you know has long ago broken down. So the thing is that even if I get an invitation saying that someone is, if I get an invitation saying that someone is that the common connection is Mike O'Neill, and I know, Mike's got 30,000 connections, 25,000 of whom he doesn't personally know, then even if I recognize the name of the person, even though if I recognize Mike's name, I have no trust that there's any value whatsoever in the fact that Mike is our common connection.
I think that's a valid point, right? Because it's like networking. How can you only network with the people that you know? That makes no sense, right?
Well-
And so, I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there because I think that Scott raises a great point.
Well, but LinkedIn's value proposition from the beginning was this idea that that was this idea of them being trusted relationships, and I was an advocate of that in the early days. Long ago, I realized though that many, if not most, business relationships are asymmetrical. And so while you may have people that are coworkers or collaborators, that customer vendor, that while the customer may be able to speak about the vendor or supplier's capabilities, the vendor or supplier often knows nothing about the customer unless it's an extremely intimate, kind of working relationship. And when I started having people say, hey, I'd like to connect because I read your book, or I saw you speak, or I love your blog. Well, at that point, they're an advocate for me, but I don't know squat about them. And I realized that, yeah, sure, I want to connect with these people. And there may be some, but when that's 5,000-10,000 people that I know absolutely nothing about, I mean, as soon as you have that inevitability of the reality of social relationships, which the LinkedIn model does not model, their hope for their original core value proposition breaks down.
Therein lies the fallacy of the LinkedIn open networker. Remember those? I mean, it used to be, I'm a lion. Connect with me and you can use my entire network. And that broke down about a day and a half after that became a thing.
Well, and so what happened was it ended up being basically it was a bypass. It was a bypass for LinkedIn's constraints around that they were trying to technically implement controls to support their fundamental theory of symmetrical business relationships. And so that was a workaround for people who wanted to work around it.
I also think if you,
I was going to throw one thing in there, just in terms of the platform, if their intent is to facilitate more of an engagement, there's an inherent problem in the mobile and in one of those views that says people you may know. When you click that connect button and it shoots out an invite without context, you don't even have a chance to grab it. It's like, I never know, so I'm always cautious there. But that to me is the biggest problem, because when I look at my inbound, out of all that I get, I'd say 75% of them, no context. They're just, and if I happen to recognize the person, okay, cool. But 75% no context. And then the other 25%, I would say 20% have these like scripted BS messages. And then 5% actually took the time to say, hey, I saw you on the podcast or whatever. So I think I would prefer the default to force you to say why you want to connect.
Right. It's frustrating to me that the default behavior on desktop is at least prompts you if you want to do a message. The default behavior on mobile is to just send the invite without anything. You have to go to their profile, go to the triple dots and say,
Personalize. Yeah.
Personalize invitation or whatever.
What else?
Sounds good, but that's a whole lot of manual work. And don't get me wrong, I think that quality is key, but I think some of that gets missed, right? And I think particularly for the smaller players, that is a lot of manual work. Find the people, go individually to their profile, read through all this profile, figure out whether you want to follow, how's their context. That's a lot of manual work. That's all I want to say about that.
Yeah, but if you're wanting to connect with people who have 29,900 connections and are being selective about who the other 100 are, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, it's like you can't, a lot of people get caught up in the numbers. It's like, oh, I want to send out all these invites. I think there's an average of 30% conversion. I use that as a baseline, so out of every 100, 30% will convert. But if you can't take the time to make it personal, then how would you expect the person on the receiving end to react to that? So if I'm one of many, I get tons of these ones that I know why they want to connect, and they want to sell something, or they want to leverage my first degree connections. If there's nothing in it, you got to figure out like what's in it for them when you're reaching out to them. And it takes time. It definitely takes time. Otherwise, go to an event and have a stack of business cards and just start dealing them out. That's what I say. When people are just like, sending out invitations just to grow their network, just start dealing out cards.
Judy, don't you have a point of view about closing off your first level connections to the public?
I leave them open. I mean, it's a network. I'm not protective. If somebody in my network wants to connect with somebody in my network, good. Let them connect. I mean, it's up to that person. I can't tell them, don't connect with this person. Now, I used to close them down, but I don't. And now I even connect with people that do the similar work that I do. You know, I got away from that mentality of trying to close everything in. And now it's like I open it up. I mean, gosh, Isaac, we're all competitors to some degree. And you've opened this up and here we are. We're all thriving. You know, so I think that we all do something different. And if I can help you, like if you connect with me and say, hey, you know, you're connected to Shireen and I'd really like to meet her. And Beth, you were reaching out to me and you say that. I say, well, you know what? I know Shireen, she engages in this group. Let me make an introduction for you. Wow. That's so much better, right?
It is. And that's what I thought was the power of LinkedIn, right?
That's
That
it.
you're going to, because I am building this network of people who want to connect with me, is to do exactly that. I'm not seeing a whole lot of that. It's like,
Yeah.
so if somebody wants, oh, can you bridge an introduction? I do that. When you reach out to me that you want to of course I'm going to do that, right? I don't care if I don't even know them. Hey, let me see, don't I know? Hey, William, Sam from my network for some reason wants to be bridged and wants to connect with you. Here's the deal. I'm just going to say, that's it, right? And now it's up to you. If there's some way I can help facilitate, please let me know. But other than that, you are two grown adults. If you want to meet somebody, right?
One
And I
thing-
just think that they could do that.
Yeah, I think what we have to realize at the end of the day is pretend we're in real life. Like pretend that LinkedIn is this like awesome networking event, right? And you go in the room and there's all these people. How would you behave? And that's where I think people make the disconnect. They're on LinkedIn, they got to shoot out all this stuff, you know, and it just, to me, it's like I signed up to go to a trade show. All of a sudden I'm getting all this stuff and it's like, no, I don't want this stuff. Now, after the trade show, I'm going to get a lot of messaging that's going to say, thanks for stopping by our booth. I didn't stop by their booth, right? So where's the trust? So yeah, I think, you know, who is it? Bryn says this. She says, you know, you got to slow down the outreach to speed up the outcome, you know, and it's really like slow down that outreach. I'd rather have 10 meaningful engagements instead of 100 transactional engagements.
Hey,
All
can
right,
I editorialize on that real quick?
Please do.
But Scott, I want to change gears here soon, so try to keep it short, please.
Keep it clean, Scott. Keep it clean.
Yeah. So this was part of our research. Was everyone talks about wanting to have the network effect, and the key concept here is what's called the action threshold, which is how well does someone have to know you in order for them to take action on your behalf. And there's two action thresholds. There's the reactive threshold, which is, will they take action on your behalf if you ask them to? Okay. And then there's the proactive threshold, which is, will they take, how well do you have to know, they have to know you for them to take action on your behalf without them knowing you. And the way you get a force multiplier effect from your network is from that, is actually from having a small, rather than a larger number of people who will respond to you, is having a smaller number of people who will take action, who will recommend you, make referrals without you asking them to. That's how you actually get networking to be passive. And that's actually why I pretty much stopped networking actively in about 2006. I know that sounds crazy, but I haven't been a hyperactive networker online since about 2006, 2007, because I triggered so much early on that still comes my way from people reaching out, you know, even after 3-5 years, whatever, et cetera. So that it's just a mentality shift that of the value of strong relationships versus strong relationships and leveraging your second degree through strong relationships rather than first degree, rather than a larger quantity of first degree relationships that are very light. That whole thing's been driven by a misunderstanding of the research done a long time ago about the strength of weak ties. And if you look up the myth around the strength of weak ties, you'll see why people horribly misunderstand that. It's not strength of non-ties, it's strength of weak ties, latent ties. So anyway.
It's
That's
good.
pretty
Appreciate
brilliant,
it.
Scott. That's good stuff.
All right, so let's we got 20 minutes left. Let's move into here in just a moment, open Q&A. So panelists, thanks for the that was really good overall philosophy on networking and invites. I do want to try and stay kind of on topic just for actionable, insight too here for what should you do when you encounter this new kind of thing. I'm wondering also if LinkedIn is taking what you select here and using it as feedback for your own personal usage of the platform as well. So, there's like there's somebody says marks your stuff as spam, and maybe they'll correlate how you're using the platform as well for a score. So just a one maybe guess there too. So
Could be their
open
own
Q&A.
market research.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Just a guess though. So I think like my main takeaway right now is when this pops up, I would rather choose other over we don't know each other. I don't know what the recipient sees. It seems like it's just not rolled out yet. But if you do encounter this, I would say don't select we don't know each other unless you have to. That would be my gut reaction. So let's move into open Q&A. You can put the question mark, do all caps question in the chat, unless you want to come on live, in which case just do the Zoom raise your hand like Jim is doing. So Jim, do you want me to stop sharing screen, or do you want to ask a question?
leave your screen
Okay.
up for just
Go
a
ahead, Jim.
second. Okay, because you have to remember this. LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft. Okay. And I think what Microsoft is doing is they're utilizing this function right here to build a big common data lake that they can overlay machine learning type models on top of that to drive better results to the people you see on your right-hand column over here. So if you're looking for somebody who's like a senior data scientist, as an example, they're going to want to make sure that they're going to fine tune who they're delivering to you here on the right-hand side of your screen. And I can actually see LinkedIn or Microsoft trying to some way monetize that in the future.
That's very possible, Jim. Absolutely. That's good insight.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I was getting at. I'm saying research for them.
I'm surprised that they don't put content as one of the choices, since they're a creator platform. Being that I found you through content.
You'll see more, I guarantee you. A year from now, this box right here will look very different. 6 months from now, it'll look different.
Hey, 6 months from now, maybe it'll be gone again. Anybody else have any other questions for the group? Now is your time to ask them. We've got about 15 minutes left. Kareem, you are up. And then did you want me to leave my screen up, Kareem, or did you want me to?
No, that's fine. I guess because I came a little late. Wait, so is this happening now with if you try to make a connection with anyone, is this box now permanent? Because I haven't seen this at all.
No, so the short takeaway is usually it's going to be on second and third. It seems kind of random, maybe more likely on a third, but we haven't seen anything consistent about when it pops up or not, honestly.
Okay, gotcha. That makes more sense. All right. Yeah, because I mean, and that's the thing, because I'm trying to remember the last time I even tried to connect with a third degree. Most of my connections come from second degree, and the way like you were talking about through content, that's how most of my connections happen. Essentially, I see something from a second degree connection that I usually comment or ask a question on, and if they respond or like or what have you, I then go to a connection afterwards, and usually it's almost 100% of the time they connect with me. So it seems to be like that's like a pattern of like trying to make a connection, is at least put some kind of effort that they see you first. And then from there, if that box pops up, you're still fine, because you at least have some kind of warm introduction by the content sharing or engagement or what have you.
Yeah. They may even be looking at just data metrics that we don't see, that where LinkedIn is trying to, maybe they're determining how closely associated you actually are to the person, that you just don't, going beyond degree connection and stuff. And so who knows, that could be it too. Scott, you're up.
Yeah, I was going to call back to something that you were talking about, making something actionable out of the matter of what to say when you're actually doing an intro to someone that you don't know for a connection request. And Judy, I think, and a couple of other people, or it was Judy or Vivica, talked about referencing recent content they've posted. I'm seeing a bunch of invitations that are coming through saying, hey, I enjoyed your recent post when I don't have a recent post. So point being is take the extra moment. I know it's to actually personalize it and say, I enjoyed your recent post about whatever, or I enjoyed your recent comment on so-and-so's post about whatever. Or in my case, I just joined a bunch of groups and I sent connection requests to all the owners of those groups and say, hey, I just requested to join your group. I'm interested in whatever and hope we can connect individually as well. Not just, hey, not just your group, but your XYZ group. So that little extra 2 seconds to make sure that they know it's personalized is worth it.
I'll just add on to that before Laura's got her hand up. I see that. The more specific you are, the better off you are. That's just the general rule. The more specific, not about I like your post, but I like that post about Tuesday morning church or whatever it is. It shows, like Scott said, the more time you spent that you spend a moment on it. You can't mass customize stuff, so you can't systemize it. So
one thing I would add to that is if there's somebody I just connected with this guy that has 240,000 followers, and he posted something and it was really good. So I first commented on the post, and then I wrote to him and I said, if you have a slot for a connection, I'd love to be part of your network. I really enjoyed the post about blah, blah, blah. So now he got the notification that I engaged on his post, and I acknowledged that I saw the size of his network, and that if he had a slot, and he just connected with me. I was like, wow.
Judy, if you got that pop-up to select how you know him, what would you have chosen?
Other.
Yeah.
Other, yeah.
Laura, you're up.
My question, it was on a slight tangent actually, but that the liking a post before connecting, I've tested that a lot. And if you save all of the leads onto Sales Navigator, then you can go down and see people who have posted that day, and then liking the post before connecting seems to be much more effective than going to a profile and liking a post from 7 days ago and then connecting, because that's more contrived. I haven't exactly got the data behind that, but we have built a widget that automatically likes and then connects. But that specific that you mentioned, Mike, is phase 2. That's really interesting to see how much that will affect the connection acceptance rate. But anyway, my question was, we had some data, it's a bit old now. Does anybody have any recent data on the connection acceptance rate difference between 2nd and 3rd degree, with any amount of data behind that? Because I keep telling people do 2nd first, do 2nd degree, not 3rd, but I haven't got any data to back that up. Anybody have any?
I'll chime in here briefly. So Laura, I think that I don't mind inviting 2nd and 3rd degree contacts. For me, it's more about if they're an active user on the platform, if there's a reason to connect. And so with network sizes, I don't know. I personally don't care if they're 2nd or 3rd. I never even look. I just look at what they say on the invite note and what they do and try to make a decision. So if we are proactively growing a network, my rule of thumb is more it's not so much on 2nd, 3rd degree. It's on, are they active on the platform? Is there a reason to connect? And so, but I have not split though. Just to your question, I have not taken any like big data and split it between the two to see if there's a difference in acceptance rate. So that's a good question. I don't have anything to that specific. Anybody else?
All right, I'll get to it then. Let you
Yeah,
know.
cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
All right, Shireen, you are up. 30 seconds or less.
Yes, so I have a quick question then around, again, the whole outreach and prospecting. So I don't use Sales Navigator, but I understand people that do want to build up a very large database of people, right? So, or prospects. So I guess my question is, when you're doing that, and you have this whole list of prospects, like how far do you get through a list of 1,000 people, especially if you're doing everything manually? One question. The second question is there kind of like an on-ramp kind of process that people go through? Like, okay, I'm just going to test out my process of outreach and my messaging and, you know, with people that I'm okay if they don't connect with me, versus trying to get it streamlined so that, you know, you're going to whittle that down to maybe 100 people and maybe target maybe 25 or 20 a day. I hope that makes sense in terms of my question.
Can I blow a hole in it? Just when I hear that, it sounds to me like lead generation on LinkedIn as opposed to sparking engagement and building a relationship. Because what I tell my clients is LinkedIn is not a lead gen platform. It's not. It's a massive database, and you can find people, but people don't want to be sold to, but people love to buy. So if you create an opportunity for engagement on LinkedIn, as opposed to, you know, the cold calling, which is, okay, I got to make 100 calls today, and I'm going to have 15 conversations, and I have to have 14 proposals and go through that. It's a whole different experience. So you're going to have a higher closing rate, a higher outcome rate, if you have a smaller, more personalized engagement. I don't know. That's just, you know.
I mean, I could get that. I see lead gen, you know, I get pitched for lead generation all the time. So I'm just trying to understand, well, okay, so, you know, what is it, right? Do you go and use Sales Navigator to build up this big list so you can have a big pool? Or are people just, you know, like the people here, are you doing like what you're saying, Judy, like really have a very small list? Like we had talked about, you can only send out 100 invitations. I think, what is that, a week or something like that?
Yeah, it's a week. Yeah.
And so
Shireen,
just trying to measure that.
you're going to have a million different people using LinkedIn a million different ways. So if my advice would be, pick a goal, pick a destination, and work backwards and see what you need to do to get there. And I would, if your kind of go to market, if you will, strategy is new, I would take it in much smaller chunks, maybe just plan it out for like the week. So instead of, I mean, if you use Sales Nav just for the process, like grabbing people, put them in a list, I would probably say, just do it like a week at a time until you find something that works, and then scale it up, keeping in mind that whatever you do in the front end is going to be a time commitment downstream, right? So with actions later. So I would start small.
Yeah, so I do have a limit. I'm not really trying to, it just makes no sense. So, you know, building my process on how I'm going to reach out to connections and so forth. So,
well, you know, there's one thing I would add. I know I've got 6 minutes. Like for one of the things I'm doing for a client, we found a catalyst. The catalyst is there's a big conference coming up, and they happen to be an exhibitor. So what we did was we are connecting with the speakers, but we're personalizing it, mentioning their session. And we get the connection. We're having about a 55% conversion rate on getting the connection. So then the next message is we're publishing content that aligns with the problems that we see that audience is having. We're talking to architects right now. And so the next question, the next message is a question to ask them if they'd be interested in this newsletter that we're publishing on LinkedIn. And we're asking them, we're not just sending them the link. So what we're trying to do is build that common thread. So then the third message, if they say yes, then we send it to them, say, great, you know, hope you enjoy it. And then the follow-up message from that is, by the way, you know, we have a booth. We'd love to meet you in person, you know, if we don't connect at your talk. And that has proven to be really valuable. So far, we've gotten outreach where people have said, hey, give me some questions that you want to ask. We'll call on you in the audience. Or yes, we'll stop by the booth. Or, you know, we'd love to talk with you. Let's set up a time. So that whole process, although it's more time consuming, is getting a better result than just, you know, kind of making it totally generic. So that's just an example. is to find that catalyst, but that's our strategy right now, is to work through that conference because of the investment in that. So does that help?
Yeah, I would say yes, and so one thing I like about what you're saying, Judy, is really the strategy behind it, right? I think that there is this long messaging strategy that helps build relationship. But I do sometimes think you just need to start by, my thing is visit the profile. If I like them, follow their content, check them out before I even send out an invitation for them to connect. My biggest goal is I get people that want to connect with me, but I need to push out the connections of the people that I'd want to connect with. But I mean, for me, there is an on-ramp. I'm like, is my messaging on point? I don't want to be starting with my stellar, invitees or the people I want to connect with. I said, I need to test this out beforehand. And maybe the ones that are like, oh, okay, this is it. Are they putting out great content? I don't know. So anyway, I just think that I believe that there needs to be a messaging strategy going forward. So I appreciate that, Julie.
All right, Kareem, you are up and probably last.
That's fine, because real quick, I just want to pitch back to what Laura was questioning about the data. I don't have any hard data. This is just purely based on observation. From what I can see is that the thing that will yield the most connections, if you want to think on a formulaic scale, is you sort your content by recent, not top, and you engage, then connect. Because the idea is if it's recent, that means they're actually active on the platform versus a piece of content that's been like a week old or several days old, and they may not even be at their computer. And so the idea is that if you're trying to cascade on that formulaic structure, that's what you'll do, because you'll engage on the content, they engage back, you request, they're right there to see it, it's fresh in their mind, they connect. That's what I'm noticing has the highest level of conversion on that. That's assuming you want to be computerizing about it and not more human. Full disclosure, I'm saying that's based on observation. That's what I've noticed.
Kareem, are you talking about the news feed or the post alerts in Sales Nav?
Good question. The basic feed on LinkedIn is the news feed.
Yeah.
Then yeah, that one, right?
Okay.
Whatever is where everyone just makes posts and it goes straight to the content feed. Yeah.
Cool.
But just one last thing, when you invite someone, whether or not they accept, you automatically now follow them.
Correct.
So even if they don't accept, you automatically are following them.
Yeah, and that's what I noticed as well, which is fine too, because if I like their content, if I'm fine following to engage it further down the path anyway.
Awesome. All right, folks, the hour is upon us. I hope that you can keep it together until we see each other next week.